Canto 12 is what we will start today, Chapter 1. We welcome our YouTube Live and Facebook Live listeners. Om Ajnana-timirandhasya Dhyananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayanam Namaskrityam Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayamudiraye Nashtaprayeshu Abhadreshu Nityam Bhagavat Sevaya Bhagavatir Uttama Shloke Bhaktir Bhavati Naishtiki Krishnaya Vasudevaya Devaki Nandanaya Cha Nandagopakumaraya Govindaya Namo Namaha. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Aradhya Bhagavan Vrajesha Tanayas Tadhama Vrindavanam Ramya Kachidupasana Vrajavadhu Vargena Vakalpita Srimad Bhagavatam Pramanamamalam Prema Pumartho Maha Shri Chaitanya Mahaprabhor Matamidam Tatra Dharana Parah. Om Ajnana-timirandhasya Dhyananjana Shalakaya Chakshurum Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Presthaya Bhutale Shrimate Bhaktivedanta Swami Niti Namine. Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine. Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shri Vasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Hare Krishna. So today we will start the 12th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, the final canto. We have completed 11th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam by the mercy of Lord Krishna, which is the Lalata Pattakam, meaning the forehead of Sri Krishna. And today, by the mercy of Srila Prabhupada, we are able to start the 12th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, which is the Sirah Mukuta, the crown on the head of the Supreme Lord Sri Krishna. So we start that today with chapter 1. So grateful that we've been allowed to continue on this journey of hearing and chanting Srimad Bhagavatam. It is just inconceivable. Chapter 1, the Degraded Dynasties of Kali-yuga. Now this 12th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, it begins with Srila Shukadev Goswami he predicts the kings of the earth. I'll just give a summary of what we'll see in the 12th canto. He starts by predicting who are all the kings of the earth. These are the people who are going to come, and we can actually verify how Shukadev Goswami was so accurate in his predictions. Because after 5,000 years, now we can look back and say, hey, Shukadev Goswami told this and this came true. Then he gives the description of the numerous faults of this age. And then the Bhumi Devi, presiding goddess of earth, she sarcastically berates the foolish members of the royal class, of the kingly order. They're perpetually trying to conquer her. In this 3rd chapter, Bhumi Gita, Bhumi Devi is saying this. Then Shukadev Goswami, he explains the 4 kinds of material annihilation. And then he gives his final advice to Maharaj Parikshit. And then Maharaj Parikshit is bitten by the snake bird Takshaka. And he leaves this world. Then we come to Suta Goswami, who concludes his narration of Srimad Bhagavatam to the sages of the Naimisharanya forests by telling who are the teachers by the various branches of the Vedas and Puranas. And then he ends by relating the wonderful story of Markandeya Rishi, who is glorifying the Supreme Lord in his universal form and in his expansion as the Sun God. He summarizes the topics discussed in this literature and then offers final benedictions and prayers at the 12th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam. So, we'd like to, this was a summary of 12th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam. Before we start the first chapter of the 12th canto, we'd like to thank our quiz participants on Facebook, Ranjani Gopika Mataji, and YouTube, Geeta Varadrajan Mataji, Hari Krishna Madali Prabhu, and Barsana Chitra Mataji. Thank you very much for continuing to be enthusiastic in participating in the quiz. It's been for 11 cantos that you've been answering the quiz questions. And now the 12th canto begins. So let's not give it up. Let's continue and increase our fervor for completing the quiz questions till the end. So the first chapter of this Srimad Bhagavatam, very briefly, it discusses the future kings of the dynasty of Magadha and how they became degraded because of Kali-yuga. Then there were 20 kings who ruled in the family of Puru, in the dynasty of sun god, Uparichara Vasu to Puranjaya. And if you see this political intrigue that is described here, is actually symptomatic of this Kali-yuga. This dynasty is continuing from 9th canto. If you remember, in the 9th canto, Shukadev Goswami describes the different rulers of the men. They descended from 2 royal dynasties, the Surya dynasty and the Chandra Vamsha. Surya Vamsha, Chandra Vamsha. Lord Ramachandra is the most famous incarnation on the Surya Vamsha, and Krishna from the Chandra Vamsha. And then in the end of 9th canto, Shukadev Goswami describes the forefathers of Lord Krishna and Lord Balaram. And finally, 10th canto is all about Lord Krishna and of Lord Balaram, exclusively to Krishna's childhood pastimes in Vrindavan, his teenage activities in Mathura, to his adult activities in Dwarka. In fact, Mahabharata also describes the same events in the period, but they focus on the 5 Pandavas and not so much on Krishna. Krishna is a side character in one sense. I mean, a true character, but... And then Bhagavad Gita is there in Mahabharata. But Srimad Bhagavatam is considered to be a more advanced literature than Mahabharata, because throughout Srimad Bhagavatam, Krishna, the supreme absolute truth, the supreme source, is directly, centrally, and irrefutably revealed. It's all about Krishna. When Srimad Bhagavatam tells about the episodes of Mahabharata, those other characters of Mahabharata are side characters, and Krishna is the center. It's following, Srimad Bhagavatam is following Krishna. And whenever he happens to be in the Mahabharata, they follow him into Mahabharata. And at an appropriate time, when Krishna leaves the Pandavas, Srimad Bhagavatam also leaves and follows Krishna's activities. In fact, of course, the first canto of Srimad Bhagavatam says how Srila Vyasadeva, he composed this work because he was dissatisfied with his sporadic glorification of Krishna in the Mahabharata. Now, although Srimad Bhagavatam is describing the histories of so many royal dynasties and the lives of so many different kings, only when the description of the Kali-yuga starts, we see that a minister is assassinating his own king and installing his son on the throne. This first verse describes that. Shukadeva Goswami says how the son assassinated his father, minister assassinated his king. This incident is very much resembling how Dhritarashtra and Duryodhan, they wanted to assassinate the Pandavas to make Duryodhan as the king. But because Krishna was there, it was not possible. He thwarted their attempts. But as soon as Krishna left, that thing of assassination, political power, and prestige continued. Then it talks about, the second verse says, Ajaya will father a second Nandi Vardhana whose son will be Mahanandi. Those kings of Shishunaga dynasty will rule the earth for 360 years. My dear Parikshit, King Mahanandi will father a very powerful son in the womb of a Shudra woman. He will be known as Nanda and will be the master of millions of soldiers and fabulous wealth. He will wreak havoc among the Kshatriyas, and from that time onward, virtually all kings will be irreligious Shudras. So up till Nanda dynasty, not Nanda Maharaj of Krishna, but there was another Nanda, Mahanandi's son, who was a mixed blood in terms of Kshatriya king, Kshatriya father, and a Shudra mother. And then that's when he says that the dynasty, the degeneration of royal order happened. Here is a description. It says how this authentic political authority of Kshatriya, of administration based on spiritual intelligence and guidance by the Brahmanas, got degenerated and disintegrated. Age of Kali, this transcendental system of government collapsed because there should be Brahmana, Kshatriya, Vaishya, Shudra. The Kshatriyas, they take guidance from Brahmanas, and Brahmanas give guidance without any political influence, whatever is the truth. But this collapses in Kali-yuga. Then after Puranjaya, this lineage of dynasty slowly became, he said, will become corrupted. Shukadeva Goswami is predicting this. Then there will be 5 kings, will be Pradyotanas, who will then be followed by Shishunaga, the Maurya dynasty, about Chandragupta Maurya. And we'll see some verses which predict Chanakya and predict Chandragupta Maurya. Kanva dynasty. Then 30 kings of the Andhra nation. 7 Abhiras, Gadarbhis, all these things. Yavanas, Turushkas, Gurundas, Maula, Kila monarchs, and then Balikas. All these are over 1,500 years after Maharaj Parikshit. Shukadeva Goswami says. Now comes a very important verse. Navanandan dvija kaschit prapannanudarishyati tesham abhave jagatim maurya bhokshyanti vaikalo. A certain Brahmana will betray the trust of the king Nanda and his 8 sons and will destroy their dynasty. In their absence, the Mauryas will rule the world as the age of Kali continues. This certain Brahmana who will betray the trust of the king Nanda is none other than Chanakya. Chanakya Pandit is predicted in Srimad Bhagavatam. And Shukadeva Goswami is only predicting the people who will actually change the course of history, either in a positive way or in a negative way. Chanakya is, Sridhar Swami and Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, both of them confirm that this Brahmana mentioned here is known as Chanakya. Also, he's known as Kautilya, who created the Artha Shastra, the economic system, or also known as Vatsyayana. Vatsyayana, Chanakya, Kautilya, same person. Now, slowly, Srimad Bhagavatam, which began with events prior to the cosmic manifestation, when Brahma even didn't come. Before then, Srimad Bhagavatam is describing, and then all these dynasties and Ramachandra and Krishna, and now it's coming into the realm of the modern recorded history. Now the modern historians can say, yeah, I know Chanakya, yes, we know Chandragupta Maurya. And this is said as a prediction. So the next verse, this Brahmana will enthrone Chandragupta, verse 12, whose son will be Varisara. The son of Varisara will be Ashok Vardhana. So they are, Chandragupta Maurya is mentioned in Srimad Bhagavatam, 12th canto. Chanakya Pandit, that's why Srila Prabhupada, he would always quote Chanakya. Sometimes he would quote Chanakya, how he said we should raise the children. It says, Pancha Varshayet Lalayet. Meaning for first 5 years of the life of a child, we must give him all adoration and love, because those are the formative years. Those are the foundation. If the foundation is love, then later on, that is what he will build upon. Dashavarshani Tarayet. Then 10 years after that, Tarayet, disciplined. If he does something wrong, they must be punished. Now, that doesn't mean they should be beaten. You can show the stick, but no need to beat. Because once you beat, the fear of the stick goes away. Mother Yashoda would do that. She would, Damodar Leela, she showed the stick. And Krishna was thinking, whoa, what's going to happen? He was creating a whole thing about when the stick hits, how would it feel? And all of that. And they make it much bigger than how it actually is. And that's good to instill fear. So, Dashavarshani Tarayet. And then he says, after that, one should become a friend of the child. Because after they come into teenage years, now whatever discipline you had to put in them, whatever love you had to put in them, you've done. Now, if you discipline them more, they will just rebel, because the teenage years is the age of rebellion. So we should be like their friend. And then after that, they are, when we are old and the kids grow young in their youth, then we should become like their dependents. We should become like their child. So this is Chanakya Niti. This is Chanakya Pandit. Chanakya Pandit, Srila Prabhupada would often quote so many quotes of Chanakya Pandit. Chanakya Pandit, he had some amazing ability to look into the life, insight into the life, practical insights into the life. He would say that acceptance in our life is very important. If someone asked, what is fear? He said that unacceptance of uncertainty is fear, which means when this life is full of uncertainty, what will happen when we don't know. But if we don't accept, if we are thinking, no, my life should be very smooth, that's my expectation. So we are not able to accept the reality that this life is uncertain. So that's why we live in fear. Unacceptance of uncertainty is fear, but acceptance of uncertainty is adventure. If we just accept, yes, it's going to be like that, and it's going to go down, and sometimes it's going to go up. When it goes down, let's enjoy the ride. Just like a roller coaster. When you go into a roller coaster, some people are fearful. And some people you see, they're shouting and they're laughing. Oh, this is life. This is so wonderful. So acceptance of uncertainty is adventure. Let's live life as an adventure. Be grateful for whatever we have and whatever we get to learn. Then Krishna is happy. Then they said, what is envy? He said, unacceptance of someone's good qualities is envy. Someone has some good qualities, but we just can't accept it. This person, I know this person is not good. How come he has these good qualities? I cannot accept it in my heart. So then that's envy. But acceptance of someone's good qualities is inspiration. We see some devotee's good qualities, we can either become envious of that person or that mercy that he has received. Or we can get inspired. Wow, he has such great qualities of service. Let me also work to develop that service attitude. Let me serve this person to develop service attitude. So acceptance is a very big thing, because if we don't accept someone's good qualities, it becomes envy. Similarly, so many different things. What is anger? Unacceptance of the fact that we are not the controllers is anger. But acceptance of the fact that we are not the controllers is forgiveness, is tolerance. So many different things he says, unacceptance versus acceptance. And this acceptance is very important. Acceptance doesn't mean you just grind your teeth and accept it because you have no other choice. But acceptance means to accept with gratefulness. Accept with the understanding, yes, I'm not perfect. I'm not perfect. I do make mistakes. Yes, I made a mistake. That's okay. To be okay with things rather than being perfectionist, then we'll never be happy. Rather be grateful for things that we have and just flood ourselves with gratefulness. That is acceptance. So Chanakya Pandit has given such wonderful wisdom. Then 18th verse, Vasudeva, an intelligent minister coming from the Kanva family, will kill the last of the Shunga kings, a lusty debauchee named Devabhuti, and assume rulership himself. Apparently, because King Devabhuti, he's said to be lusty after the wives of other men. So his minister killed him, assumed his leadership, and then began the Kanva dynasty. Then this was verse 18. Then it goes on and says so many different dynasties. Verse 37, the land along the Sindhu River, as well as the districts of Chandrabhaga, Kaunti, and Kashmir, will be ruled by Shudras, fallen Brahmanas, and meat eaters, having given up the path of Vedic civilization. they will have lost all spiritual strength. Chandra Bhaga river is mentioned. Chandra Bhaga river is the river next to Pandharpur, in Pandharpur, where Lord Vithala resides, the Lord Panduranga. And Kashmir, it says, comes from Kashyap Muni. Kashmir is also mentioned here, which we know now how it is. From since then, it has been part of the Bharatvarsha. Then text 41. The citizens governed by these low-class kings will imitate the character, the behavior, and speech of their rulers. Harassed by their leaders and by each other, they will suffer ruination. So in the ninth canto, end of ninth canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, it is stated that Ripunjaya or Puranjaya, he's the first king mentioned in this chapter. He ended his rule about 1,000 years after Krishna's time, after Krishna left. So since Lord Krishna, he appeared approximately 5,000 years ago. So Puranjaya may have appeared 4,000 years ago. That means that this last king mentioned here would have appeared in the 12th century of the Christian era, 12th century. So Shukadev Goswami has predicted so far up till 12th century, from Krishna's time until 12th century AD. So many people, many of the Western scholars, they make false accusation. Indian religious literature is just mythology. It has no sense of chronological history. But this elaborate historical chronology described in this chapter refutes that assessment. Because here it completely explains, it's not mythology, it's actually real history. Then it ends by saying, after this, different regions will be ruled at the same time by 7 Andhra kings, 7 Kaushala, king of Vidura, and the Nishada. Then the power of rulership in the countries of Magadha and so forth will fall to the kings who are no better than Shudras, no better than Malichas, and are totally absorbed in a religion. This ends this first chapter. We go to the second chapter, the symptoms of Kali-yuga. This chapter relates when the bad qualities of Kali-yuga will increase to an intolerable level. The Supreme Personality of Godhead will descend as Kalki to destroy those who are fixed in irreligion. Then after that, a new Satya Yuga will begin. So this is explaining all that. In fact, Kali Yuga is very, very much afraid of Lord Chaitanya's movement and Srila Prabhupada's movement. There is a wonderful drama that has been written about how Kali has his associate as Adharma. And then this Adharma has his associates: illicit sex, intoxication, gambling, meat eating. This is the nightmare of Kali. It's described how, I think it's a story written by Srila Jayapataka Maharaj, and there he mentions how this nightmare of Kali, when Kali is sleeping, suddenly he wakes up and he calls his Adharma. I saw that there were so many people who were chanting and dancing. What is that? And so he says, that's Lord Chaitanya. And then, he introduces all his illicit sex, intoxication, gambling, meat eating, all of his associates. And then once that is done, suddenly he has second nightmare where Srila Prabhupada has come. And he has come right in the capital of Kali, New York City. And how He then from there has established true religion, Krishna consciousness all over the world. So till Lord Chaitanya, since he came 10,000 years after that, there is a break on the progress of Kali-yuga. But after that, it's going to get worse. And that's why Kalki has to come. So as this age of Kali progresses, all of the good qualities of men, they'll diminish. And all the impure qualities, they'll increase. Atheistic systems will grow. So first verse, Sri Shuka Vacha, Tataschanudinam dharma satyam shaucham kshamadaya kalena balina rajan nankshyatyayur palam smriti. Shukadev Goswami said, then, O king, religion, truthfulness, cleanliness, tolerance, mercy, duration of life, physical strength, and memory will diminish day by day because of the powerful influence of the age of Kali. And then, in Kali Yuga, alone, wealth alone will be considered the sign of a man's good birth. If you have wealth, you are a good person. That's the standard of a good person. If you are wealthy, you have proper behavior. If you're wealthy, you have fine qualities. Law and justice will be applied only on the basis of power. One who has more power, he will get justice. But otherwise, no one will get any justice unless you have some power. Men and women will live together merely because of superficial attraction, and success in business will depend on deceit. Womanliness and manliness will be judged according to one's expertise in sex, and a man will be known as a Brahmana just by wearing a thread. So here we see that the best example is, how in the 20th century, 21st century, people give so much importance to movie stars, music stars, other prominent figures in this entertainment industry. And but finally, this verse states that in age of Kali, a man will become known as a priest merely by wearing ceremonial dress. The Brahmanas, they wear a sacred thread. In other parts of the world, members of the priestly class have other ornaments. The Catholics have their dress, and the Protestants have their dress, and the Buddhists have their dress. But in age of Kali, these symbols alone will be sufficient to establish that I am a religious leader, even though he may be ignorant about God. Fourth, a person's spiritual position will be ascertained merely according to external symbols, and on that same basis will change from one spiritual order to the next. A person's propriety will be seriously questioned if he does not earn a good living. And one who is very clever at juggling words will be considered a learned scholar. So here we know so many examples. People do word jugglery, and then they're considered scholar. One time a person, he heard the lecture of such a word juggler, and then he came out, and then people asked him, oh, how was the lecture? Oh, it was wonderful, wonderful lecture. I've never heard a lecture like that. How he spoke, oh my God, you should listen to it. So he said, whoa, really? What did he say? What did he say? That's what I'm saying. You should go and listen to him. Just listen to him once. Okay, I will listen to him. But what did he actually say? That is the thing. I didn't even understand what he said. He said something really, really high. But what a lecture. What a lecture. So like that, people who do clever word jugglery, they'll be considered a learned scholar because no one wants to ask a question and seem ignorant. Because if you ask a question to a word juggler, you are showing that I really didn't understand your word jugglery, and then everyone laughs at you. And so it's like king has no clothes, and no one wants to tell them that you have no clothes, except His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. He was told, why don't you keep the name of your organization International Society for God Consciousness? Prabhupada said, no, I want people to know that Krishna is God. Otherwise, anyone can claim it to be God, but I want it to be International Society for Krishna Consciousness. No word jugglery, simple, straightforward truth. 5th verse, a person will be judged unholy if he does not have any money, and hypocrisy will be considered as virtue. Marriage will be arranged simply by verbal agreement, and a person will think he is fit to appear in public if he has merely taken a bath. So this is, here it says, marriage will be arranged simply by verbal agreement, which means live-in relationships, like how people have live-in relationships now. There is no sacred ritual, there is no public ceremonies, nothing in front of the fire, in front of the deity, no commitment. But just a verbal, maybe a court marriage, that's also kind of a piece of paper agreement. But real marriage is when it's in front of the guru, the brahmanas, the fire, the parents, and the deity. Otherwise, it's just a live-in, and then you can leave anytime. So it's coming true, what Srimad Bhagavatam said. A person thinks he's fit to appear in public if he has merely taken a bath. Now, some of us may be thinking, yeah, so what's wrong with that? Yeah, well, as long as we've taken bath and we are in good clothes, we should be able to appear in public. Why is he saying just merely taking bath? Because Shukadeva Goswami's standards is to wear tilak. After taking bath, wear tilak. Not just the body should be pure, the mind should also be pure. Chant our rounds. Hear Srimad Bhagavatam. Then we appear in front of public. After purifying ourselves, not just in the body, but also in the mind, we should appear in the public. That is the standard of Shukadeva Goswami. In fact, and that's what Srila Prabhupada taught us. Wake up in the morning, take a bath, attend Mangalarti, chant 16 rounds, hear Srimad Bhagavatam, then you go out to preach to the public. And then, because we have such an armor of spiritual armor with us, of the sadhana that we have done, when Kali and Maya attack us with their representatives, we can sustain that attack. But then by the end of the day, we get spiritually depleted. Next day again, we should recharge our batteries. One time, someone asked that, well, you know, what if I chant one day but not chant the other day? You know, chanting is one time I take the holy name, it should be valid for the entire life. So it said, okay, if it's snowing outside and raining outside, and if it's very cold outside, we'll wear our jacket, right? We'll wear our jacket, we'll go out. That jacket is like our sadhana, chanting of 16 rounds and hearing Srimad Bhagavatam. But then, next day, if we want to go out and it's cold, can we say, yesterday I wore the jacket, so today I don't need to wear the jacket because, you know, yesterday I wore it. We can't say that. We go out, we'll get frozen. Similarly, if we don't do this every day, Mangalarti, chanting 16 rounds, hearing Srimad Bhagavatam, then we go out with our wind cheater, with our jacket, then the cold will not affect us every day, and this will help. Prabhupada said if someone attends Mangalarti for 12 years, whatever he says will come true. This is Srila Prabhupada's prediction. Then the verse concludes by saying that, of course, we just talked about it. Sixth, a sacred place will be taken to consist of no more than a reservoir of water located at a distance, and beauty will be thought to depend on one's hairstyle. Filling the belly will become the goal of life, and one who is audacious will be accepted as truthful, which means if you're confident and you say the false thing confidently, you'll be considered truthful. Another person who is truthful, but he is very meek and he's not saying it confidently, then he's considered false. He's considered to be guilty. He who can maintain a family will be regarded as an expert man, and the principles of religion will be observed only for the sake of reputation. People come to the churches and to the temple just to show, oh, I'm a very, very holy man. And I have, I don't know I don't know if God really exists. So one time there was a friend of mine. He was a total atheist when we were growing up together. And then one day he got married, and then one day he invited me to a puja in his house. And I was surprised. What? You're doing puja? That's very interesting. Let me go. So I went to his house, and then while the puja was going on, and in the end when he was serving prasadam, I took him to the corner. I said, you, Ajay, you were not very religious. You were like an atheist. You used to argue with me and say God doesn't exist. Suddenly you are doing all this puja and prasadam. How did it happen? So he told me, well, you know what? I still don't know if God exists or not. But what if God exists? At least let me do this. If in the end God doesn't exist, then also I'm okay. If God exists, this is all insurance I'm doing. In case God exists, I'll be saved in some way or the other. So people do religion just for the sake of reputation, just for the sake as an insurance, rather than out of love of Krishna, love of God. Then it says, as the earth becomes crowded with a corrupt population, whoever among any of the social classes shows himself to be the strongest, he'll gain the political power. Harassed by famine, excessive taxes, people will resort to eating leaves, roots, flesh, wild honey, fruits, flowers, seeds. Struck by drought, they'll be completely ruined. This is going to happen soon. I mean, this is already happening in some places, but it's going to become the norm. The citizens will suffer from cold, wind, heat, rain, snow. They'll be tormented by quarrels, hunger, thirst, disease, and severe anxiety. Trimshad vimshati varshani paramayu kalauninam. Trimshat vimshati varshani. Trimshat means 30. Vimshati means 20. And varshani is years. 30 plus 20 years. 50 years will be the parama ayu, maximum duration of life in Kali-yuga will become 50 years. Sometimes the modern medical science tells us, oh, the duration of life, the lifespan of human beings has increased. It has increased. Whereas here they are saying it's going to decrease. It starts by 100 and general lifespan will decrease. So how do we understand that? One thing is that even if they are increasing the lifespan in some way, the quality of life is reduced in the sense that you may keep someone on a respirator for some time, but he's just living as maybe for 1 year, 2 years, but they're living as a vegetable. There's no quality of life. We're full of needles and things like that. Practically, we are dead. It's worse than death in one sense. Also, when they say the average duration of life is 75 or 100, whatever they're saying right now, they've not considered the aborted babies. Babies who are aborted before they are born. If we even include them, because life begins at conception, Srimad Bhagavatam, 3rd canto explains that. And if we include even that, you'll see the average lifespan will reduce. But then, maximum duration of life will become 50 years eventually. Right now, it may be 60, 70, 80 years, but it'll become 50. The kings will become like highway bandits, and people will become dedicated to low occupations. All social classes will become Shudras. Cows will become like goats, small. Earlier, the cows used to be really big, huge. All spiritual hermitages will become like materialistic homes, and family ties extend no further than the immediate relationship of marriage. At this time, when Shukadeva Goswami is saying, at that time, people used to live in joint families, and this culture used to be there. When you go in joint families, the children, they don't know who my father is, who my mother. Everyone who is elder, they consider, because they would sleep one day in maybe the Kaka and Kaki's house, and another day in Mosa and Mosi's house, and another day in the Tau's house, room. They were all in the same house, but in different rooms. And they would not know who's my real actual father, actual mother, because everyone is taking care of me like my father, like my mother. But now, the family ties will extend no further than immediate relationship of marriage, nuclear families. Just me, my wife, my kids, and that's it. When the age of Kali has almost ended, the Supreme Personality of Godhead will incarnate. And that's why it is all predicted how he will incarnate, when he will incarnate. He will incarnate Kalki Avatar in a village called Shambhal in Madhya Pradesh. His father's name will be a Brahmana called Vishnu Yasha. And he will take the name Kalki. This is all described. This will happen 427,000 years later, but it's described 432,000 years earlier. Meaning 5,000, its entire Kali-yuga is 432,000 years. And in the beginning of Kali-yuga, it was described what will happen 432,000 years later. Then Kalki will come and he will not preach. He will just come he will mount his horse. His horse name is Devadatta. The same name as his conch shell. Panchajanya, but this is Devadatta. Now Arjuna's conch shell, that's Devadatta. So Krishna's horse or Kalki's horse will be Devadatta. And then he takes his sword in his hand, he will roam around the earth, killing millions of bandits in the guise of kings. Because at that time, you cannot preach. People would be so degraded, their intelligence will be so low, you cannot preach to them. They will not understand. Only thing Krishna can do is kill them. And because he killed them, they will have hope for salvation. Then the signs of next Satyuga will appear. Moon, sun, Brihaspati. When they enter into one constellation, then Satyuga will begin. Then Satya, Treta, Dwapar, Kali, all this cycle rotates. And then he's telling about from your birth up to the coronation of King Nanda, 1,150 years will pass. And Shukadeva Goswami says, as long as Krishna, the husband of goddess of fortune, his lotus feet touched the earth, Kali was powerless. Kali had actually come. Even during the time of Krishna's presence on earth, Kali had entered the earth to slaughter and his allies and his friends. But Lord Krishna consistently, he was fighting against Kali's influence. He suppressed it. Kali could not flourish until Lord Krishna left the earth. And even then, Parikshit Maharaj took control of Kali. Then it says Kali-yuga consists of 1200 years of demigods. 1200 years of demigods is 432,000 years, Earth years. It's like almost 360 year times. So these personalities who were great souls are now known only by their names. They exist only in accounts from the past, and only their fame remains in the earth. So here, Shukadeva Goswami is telling Maharaj Parikshit slowly, steadily, that, what is the use of all this name and fame and power and prestige? It's all going to end in a long list of names, even if you are famous. Otherwise, no one will remember you. Then it ends with a brief description of the future dynasties of sun and moon from Vaivasvata Manu in the next Satya Yuga. In fact, Shukadeva Goswami says, even now, there are two saintly Kshatriyas who are living. At the end of Kali Yuga, they will reinitiate these pious dynasties of sun god, Vivaswan, and moon god Chandra. The names of the two kings are also given who are present now, and they will reinitiate at the end of Kali Yuga. One is Devapi, the other is Maru. Maru is a descendant of Ikshvaku. Devapi is a brother of Maharaj Shantanu. If you happen to see someone and he introduces himself as Devapi, beware, he's the one who's going to go all the way till Kali Yuga, or Maru. They are living incognito. Shukadeva Goswami is saying in the verse, they are living incognito in a village named Kalapa. Now let's start researching, where is this village Kalapa and where they are living incognito. Then at the end of age Kali, these two kings, they would receive the instruction directly from the Supreme Personality of Godhead Vasudeva, and they will return the human society to re-establish this eternal religion of man, of Varnashram Dharma. They will establish Varnashram Dharma just as it was before. So they have already descended on the earth. They are waiting patiently to render their service to Krishna. Then Sri Shukadeva Goswami says, my dear King Parikshit, all these kings who tried to enjoy the earth by their strength, they were reduced by the force of time to nothing more than a historical account. You can see it. Because Maharaj Parikshit is preparing to give up his body and go back home, back to Godhead. And Shukadeva Goswami, who is his most merciful spiritual master, he wants to devastate any attachment that Maharaj Parikshit may have to power and position of a king. That's why he's saying that don't be attached to power and prestige. You did the right thing, but by renouncing and hearing spiritual instructions here. But if you have any attachment that what if I would have continued my kingdom, don't think about it. Even if you would have, no one would have remembered you. You would just be a historical account. But by renouncing the power and position and hearing Srimad Bhagavatam, he has become eternal, synonymous with the name of Srimad Bhagavatam, which will be eternally present. Because he speaks, Shukadeva Goswami therefore ends this chapter very bluntly. And that is his causeless mercy. Because he wants to take his surrendered disciple back home, back to Godhead, to Vaikuntha. So we'll end with one story. There was a king. He asked his ministers, tell me a phrase which is valid at all times, in all position, in all circumstances. And everyone came, and they started giving different phases, different phrases. And sometimes some phrase, some said, okay, let me tell you a phrase, uh, I'm proud of my country. And then, but sometimes it may not be valid. If the country is overtaken by another person, then we may not be so much proud. Or if we leave the country, what then? Are you proud of the country you're living in? Or I love you. Yeah, but that material love, that keeps changing. So many people came up with so many different phrases, but none of the phrases stood the test of time. They were valid either for certain people, certain age, certain time. And then a wise man came, a sage came, and he said, I will tell you a phrase. I can answer your question, but you will not be able to appreciate my answer until you are in dire need of some of that particular thing, phrase. So my condition is I will give you the phrase, I will write it on a piece of paper, and you will not read it. You will fold it and keep it under your ring. And when you need it the most, when you are in dire necessity, that time you open and read it, you will understand how it is eternal. So the king said, all right, okay, I'll pay the price. So this wise sage wrote something on a piece of paper and gave him, he put it under his ring. He kind of forgot about it. After some time, his kingdom was invaded by another king, and he was being defeated. He was running from the battlefield. Behind him, the enemy soldiers were coming in his horses, galloping. And this king was running for his life. And then as soon as he was running, he came at a cliff. If he continues, he will fall down the cliff. So he saw some bushes. He hid in those bushes. In fact, before he hid on the bushes, he actually was there, and he said he was at the edge of the cliff and the enemy soldiers were galloping, and he felt, now everything's gone. I have nothing. These enemy soldiers will come and catch me. They'll kill me. Or if I have to escape, I have to go down here. And he just froze. And at that time, he remembered the thing that the sage said. When you are in dire necessity, read this phrase. So he took out the phrase, the paper, and he read. And it said, this too shall pass. This was the phrase, this too shall pass. And he read, and certain calm came over him. His mind became calm. He was panicking so much. He said, yes, this will pass. And then because he became calm, he felt something in his mind. He said, let me escape. He saw some bushes. He hid there. The enemy soldiers came. They tried searching for him. They couldn't find him. They went after some time. This king, after 6 months of hiding and running in the forests, he regained his soldiers. He made whoever the surviving soldiers was, he brought them together. And then after 6 months, he went and reclaimed his kingdom. And this time, when he became the king, he reclaimed his kingdom. He was coming into his city for the first time in 6 months. And there was a huge procession that was ready to welcome him. And he was coming on his horses. Just then, the sun shone on his ring, which reflected on his eyes. And he remembered the ring. He again took out that phrase and the paper, and he read, this too shall pass. which means this good time that you are having, this will pass too. The bad time that you had, this too shall pass. This phrase, this too shall pass, is valid in all circumstances, whether good time or bad time. We should not be attached to good time because that will pass. We should not become morose in the bad times because that too shall pass. And so we should not be attached to wealth, power, position, prestige. If we get it, we use it in Krishna's service. But we are not attached. Every time we should think, if this is taken away from me now, how will I react? What will happen? So with this, we end today's discussion. And if there are any questions or comments we can take, there are some quiz questions. We have 12 questions. Session 101, quiz. What is the 12th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam compared to in the personality of Sri Krishna? Second, how many kings ruled in the dynasty of King Puru? Third, after which dynasty will the degeneration of the royal order take place? Fourth, who is the Brahmana who betrayed the trust of the king? Fifth, what is definition of envy and anger? Sixth, in the age of Kali, how will a priest be identified? Seventh, what is considered to be a virtue in this Kali-yuga? Eighth, what is the maximum duration of life in Kali-yuga? Ninth, what village will Kalki appear in and what will be the name of his father? 10th, what is the name of Kalki's horse? 11th, how many demigod years is the age of Kali-yuga and what is the age of Kali-yuga in human years? 12th, who are the two kings who are present currently who will reinitiate the royal Kshatriya order at the end of Kali-yuga? So these are the 12 questions today. We have a question from Swati Mataji. I had a small query. In Mahabharata, we see King Shantanu marry Satyavati, a fisher woman. Was that dynasty not polluted by this association? Well, in one sense, Kshatriya man can marry in the lower castes, and so in that sense the son that was born was two sons that were born, and in this sense that dynasty was not polluted by this kind of association. Vichitravirya and Chitrangada, who were born. And at that time, they also had a lot of association of saintly kings, especially person like Bhishma, who was there to guide them, who was, even though they may not be very, Vichitravirya, Chitrangada, I think they were not very powerful. One of them was very weak. And then Bhishma actually got them married to Ambika, Ambalika. And because of Bhishma, because of others, they were able to sustain that dynasty. But very soon after that, it just degraded. So I hope that answers your question. Geeta Mataji, there is a question. The beginning. Srila Prabhupada says, attending Mangal Arati for 12 years, whatever he says will come true. What is the significance of 12 years? Shikshashtakam verse 7. I'm considering a moment to be 12 years. 12 years, I'm not very sure. Prabhupada said 12 years. So, yes, Yugayitam Nimishena. Every 7 years our entire body changes. In 12 years, I guess a person starts coming into maturity. A child after 12 years, they start coming really into the teens. And so, yeah, I'm not very sure exactly why Prabhupada said 12 years, but he did say that. According to, this is in Srila Prabhupada Uvacha book written by Shori, written by Shruta Kirti Prabhu. He was from New Vrindavan, the servant of Srila Prabhupada, and he traveled with Srila Prabhupada for a couple of years, and he wrote in his memories. Another question, Menaka Mataji. Why Kali-yuga is most sinful yuga? Is there any specific reason? Yeah, it is the cycle of time. Satya Yuga, there are 4 principles of religion. Intoxication, no intoxication, no meat eating. So 4 principles are uh, truthfulness, austerity, mercy, and cleanliness. These are the 4 principles of religion. Satya Yuga, the austerity slowly comes down. So when we come to Treta Yuga, there is just cleanliness, mercy, and truthfulness. Then in Treta Yuga, the sacrifice is the way of salvation is sacrifice, horse sacrifice, the Ashwamedh Yagya, and all of that. And so mercy reduces. And so by the time it is Dwapar Yuga, austerity and mercy have gone. Only cleanliness and truthfulness remains. So that's why in Dwapar Yuga, the way of salvation to attain Godhead is deity worship. Deity worship, cleanliness is very important. The standard of deity worship in Dwapar Yuga, we cannot even imagine in Kali Yuga to follow that. That's why in Kali Yuga, Kalautad Hari Kirtanat, only Hari Kirtan. We should not be proud of our deity worship, although we should try as much as cleanliness and punctuality as possible. But that time, that standard of cleanliness was there. But as Dwapar Yuga proceeded, cleanliness went away. So no austerity, no mercy, no cleanliness. When Kali Yuga starts, truthfulness is there. That's the only limb that's remaining. That's the significance of the bull with just one leg. That's dharma. Bull is dharma, one leg. Truthfulness. But as Kali Yuga proceeds, truthfulness also keeps going down and down and down. If you think today people are not truthful, think of what it will be in the towards the end of Kali Yuga. So therefore Kali Yuga is considered to be sinful because all the 4 principles of religion, 3 principles have gone, 4th one is dwindling as time goes by. Therefore, it's considered to be very sinful. There is no dharma, no mercy, no truthfulness, no austerity, no cleanliness, no mercy. People eat meat so much. No austerity. There is, no one wants to practice austerity. Very lazy people, all of us in Kali Yuga. And truthfulness, cleanliness, there is nothing. So that's why it's considered to be very sinful age. All right, thank you very much. I hope that answers your question. We have special announcement for Purushottam Mas and Kartik. Again, like we said last time, we have 4 exciting programs that has been lined up by the mercy of Sri Sri Radha, Madhava, Gauranga Mahaprabhu, Srila Prabhupada, and our Guru Vargas. We should be able to complete the Srimad Bhagavatam in the next 8 sessions. And on the 2nd of September, we will complete Srimad Bhagavatam. So from 3rd to 15th, we'll do a special 9-day session on Srimad Bhagavad Gita. It'll be a very interactive session over Zoom, and we request everyone to please register for this. We'll broadcast it over Facebook and YouTube like we are doing now, and we'll advertise it also. We'll send you the links for registration. But if you would like to interact in group sessions, and other exciting activities, then we request please register over Zoom on this for this 9-day sessions. We'll be sharing a document, and it's free of charge. Only charge is your time and your enthusiastic participation. If you cannot be enthusiastic, please reconsider. Second, next is coming up the most auspicious Purushottama Adhik Mas, which comes only once every 3 to 4 years. So this year, starting from 16th September to 16th October, is the most auspicious Purushottam month. Generally, by the inspiration of the ISKCON Congregation Development Minister, Srila Jayapataka Swami Guru Maharaj, as a special offering to Srila Prabhupada, we organize home programs every day of this month since several years, like the Damodar month program. We visit the homes of different congregation members. They invite us, they invite their friends and family, listen to beautiful katha for 20 minutes, sing Purushashtakam, offer ghee lamps to Radha and Krishna, who are the presiding deities of this month. And so in this difficult time of this pandemic, where we are practicing social distancing, we wish to continue these special home programs as well. And thanks to the technology and unlimited mercy of our Guru Vargas, we'll be able to visit your home if you so desire over Zoom. And we'll send out a calendar link, which will have 2 time slots over weekdays, 1 in the morning, 1 in the evening. And on weekends, there will be 4 to 5 time slots based on the demand. And here you can choose your day, your time slots, and you'll receive a unique Zoom link, which you can then share with your friends, family, invite them to join. And then we'll come over Zoom to your home, conduct a very special program of Purushottam Mas. All the members who register, they'll receive special gifts and the most special blessings of their Lordships, Sri Sri Radha Gopinath Ji. This is the second one. Third, we have another 9-day gap after Purushottam Mas ends and before the most auspicious and special Kartik month starts. So during this 9 days gap between Purushottam month and Kartik month, we'll offer a special course in Sri Upadeshamrita, the Nectar of Instruction by Srila Rupa Goswami, which has only 11 verses, but they are so deep. The entire philosophy of Krishna consciousness is condensed in this 11 verses. And we'll not only share the instructions of Srila Rupa Goswami, but also share nectarian pastimes of the Goswamis and pastimes of Radha Krishna, so we can prepare our consciousness to properly welcome the most auspicious month of Damodar, the Kartik month. And then Kartik month from 30th October to 29th November, we'll have similar programs over Zoom like we did for Purushottam month. And so we look forward to your enthusiastic participation over these activities and programs that are lined up for the next few months. Again, to summarize, Srimad Bhagavatam Katha will end, Sri BhagavatamritaCanto will end September 2nd, September 3 to September 16th, 15th, we'll have the Bhagavad Gita sessions. We'll focus on the 108 important verses of the Bhagavad Gita and explain the flow of the chapters. And then September 16th to October 16th will be the Srimad, the Purushottam month. And then after that will be Upadeshamrita. And after that, the most auspicious Kartik month. So if you have any questions, comments, let us know. We'll be happy to provide more clarifications on all of this. Thank you very much. Hare Krishna.